And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this Thursday, July 17th, although this morning it felt like October 17th. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Wysocki, along with our Ag Director, Bridgette Readel. And boy, did you turn the heat on last night, Bridgette?
Oh, no,
Okay.
but I can tell you that you didn't leave all the windows open last night.
No, just cracked open, let some fresh air in, but it was chilly. We tied here in Fargo a 150-year-old record of 43 degrees. The cool spot in the state was Willow City up in north central parts of the state, where they bottomed out at 34 degrees. Now, I had a couple people ask me today, Bridgette, 34 degrees, does that do any damage to crops up in that area?
How long was it at 34 degrees?
I knew that was your next question. Oh, boy, maybe an hour at most.
Yeah, likely, you might see a little bit of leaf, a little rippling, et cetera, but everything was warm. Well, not overly warm from yesterday, but I don't think we're going to see a huge amount of damage by any means happening.
Okay.
So at this point, I'm not gonna panic about that quite yet. It did get cold, and I think today we're seeing a nice, easy warm up. We're going to see some warm days again. I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, good deal. Good deal. Yeah, we've got a pretty decent looking forecast. I mean, there are areas that have had too much rain. One down around the Barnesville area, the other section up in northwestern Minnesota and the Northern Valley. But the rest of us could really use a good drink of water, and that is on the way as we head into this upcoming Friday. So for today, though, we're looking at partly cloudy skies out there, and temperatures currently in the 60s to around 70. We'll warm up into the low to mid 70s this afternoon with partly cloudy skies and light winds. Then after dark, we'll see showers spreading in from the west, and that will continue into the overnight hours, maybe even a rumble of thunder as well, with lows tonight not nearly as chilly into the upper 50s. And then as we head into your Friday looks pretty wet. We're looking at on and off showers and thunder showers throughout the day with highs only in the upper 60s. That does improve for the weekend. Saturday, upper 70s. Sunday, low to mid 80s. Might see a late day storm on Sunday, but a better chance for more rain coming in. And those storms could be strong next Monday and Tuesday. And this weather has been brought to you by Progressive Ag Risk Management Specialists. So a little rain in the forecast and some warmer weather as well. I do see temperatures next week predominantly in the 80s. So that's good news there. That's good for the corn. Get a little warm weather and get a little moisture on the crops as well.
Well, we'd appreciate that. Take this now while we can, because remember what I told you yesterday. I don't need a bunch of rain while we're trying to combine wheat. So
right.
Let's remember how I got a standing order for the right weather at the right time.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't ask for much, just what we need right now, all the time. Now, for those of you who have questions that you want to ask, you can join us today by calling us on the JLA Insurance phone line, 701-293-9000. Emails can be sent weather or ag@flagfamily.com. And of course, you can follow us along today on WDAY's Weather and Ag in Focus on YouTube, Facebook, and Acres TV. If you haven't downloaded the Acres TV app yet, you certainly should. It's free, and that way you can find a whole host of agricultural-related programming. It is the Netflix of agriculture, and we will be with the hosts of the whole site for Acres TV coming up on July 31st. We'll be in Baltic, South Dakota at Ag PhD Field Day, and looking forward to that day. I get questions and comments pretty much every day about who's going, what are they going to be doing. So we'll get a chance to visit a lot of people.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's always packed, and hopefully it's not about 105 degree heat index, but that time of the year, yeah, we know what it can be in Baltic.
I have started out wearing muck boots and a sweatshirt, and by the end of the day, been just ready to shed my skin like a snake, because you're so hot and sweaty from being standing around in the heat, the humidity. It every year is an adventure in the weather in South Dakota.
No doubt.
It's just how it is.
No doubt.
So now, if you're in South Dakota and you're thinking about honing your skills as a bull rider or a saddle bronc rider, well, there's a place for you. Tuesday nights in Phillips, South Dakota, there are local folks that put on a clinic to help improve your skills. They see about 20 to 30 young folks come out and get some lessons from the older crowd. And by young folks, these are folks from junior high all the way through college age. Cooper West, who grew up at Phillips, South Dakota, he likes working with his buddy Joe Wishart. And they got this tradition started where they're trying to help everybody from one end to the other of the arena learn more and set their skills. So they bring some starter horses in. So you've got contractors bringing in rough stock. You have formal bull and bronc riders who are working the chutes and behind the chutes to make sure that gears attached correctly, that folks are working on their form while they're riding the animals, they're running the gates. You also have veteran pickup men out in the arena, and those are the folks that are on horses with long shaps. Their job is if you get hung up in your gear, if you get squished between a critter and corrals, they can pull you out safely. And so there's even new practice for those who want to be starting out as a pickup man in the arena. So if you're looking to get a little practice drill in, well, it sounds like Phillips, South Dakota on Tuesday nights is your place. Dean, Addison, I'll see what I can do for you guys if you want me to get you lined up.
Sounds like a plan for me. I'm always up for something different.
Look, I of course have no place to tell short jokes, but Dean and I are like size.
Yeah.
And I will tell you.
Now I'm an inch or two taller.
Well, yes, but you are the right size for a bull rider.
Okay.
Tall guys don't do well there. So I'm sure you have no concern if I just, pick out some rough stock and get you in the chute.
That would be fun. I don't know if my back would handle it, but yeah.
The answer to that is no.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not.
Just so you're aware, right?
And we've got Tom on line one. He's got something for us, Bridgette. Tom, what's on your mind?
Hey, Dean, just real quick, I don't know what the official temperature is right now, but a little while ago on the M&H gas station on Main Avenue, it says minus 196 degrees.
Oh,
I think that would cause just a little bit of damage.
That would cause a little bit of damage, Tom. Yeah, rest assured that is the wrong temperature out there. Thanks, Tom.
Get a kick out of that.
I love it. I love it. Thanks a lot, Tom. Boy, if that's the case, yeah, better wear the winter jackets if you're going out this afternoon.
Well, at least if you're going to M&H, that sounds like that's a real problem over there.
Oh man. Oh, whew. That would definitely be a record.
Now, maybe somebody hacked into their system, because have they been using Tech Support Farm, Chris Sherman could have protected that so no one could have messed with their thermometer when they were displaying the right temperature. So you don't want that to happen to you. You don't want somebody to get too involved in your information. So as always, you can check out techsupportfarm.com, talk to Chris Sherman, and he has a fence check assessment on his website so that you can decide, do I have what I need for cybersecurity? Because the answer to that is, I bet most of us aren't really sure. We probably don't know. And farms and agribusinesses are currently being heavily targeted. We hear that more and more from the FBI. In fact, the Midwest, the Fargo Chamber of Commerce, actually, the West Fargo Moorhead Chamber is hosting an event on August 14th, and it's talking about ag technology. And one of the topics that will be on the agenda that day is cybersecurity. So I think it's something we all have to be paying a little bit more attention to. Now, in that realm of paying attention to, well, we've got a guest coming up with us today. We're going to be joined by Steve Hanson. He's from Oaks, North Dakota, and he farms in that area. He's also the head of the North Dakota Irrigation Council and has had a recent appointment to the North Dakota Water Commission. When you think of North Dakota, you don't think about irrigation right off the bat. We're not a state that people consider pivots and aquifers, but yet all of those things exist, and they have an importance in our ag systems when it comes to farming, livestock production, etc. I met Steve here in June. We were on a panel together in Fargo, and I've never seen someone so passionate about water. When you say that whiskey's for fighting and whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting, Steve will tell you that that has happened in cases. But this is a guy who understands our water systems in the state, and especially irrigation, very, very well, and particularly from the perspective of a farmer. So after we have an opportunity to listen to our market update from the American Ag Network, I look forward to having Steve join us from his home in Oaks so we can talk about what's going on irrigation wise. What in the world is the Irrigation Council? And they just had a water tour in the Oaks area. I'd like a recap of what was happening down there. So stick with us. We'll be back to talk about water, water, water after this. Our wheat field is progressing right along for Here We Grow 2025. We're custom farming 20 acres of wheat from Peterson Farm Seeds, and it's near Gardner, North Dakota. I was in the field yesterday. If you missed it, a lot of our kernels are already at that milk to dough stage. We're estimating what our bushels might be, and additionally, when we might be ready to combine. Now, if you would like to send me your guess of what you think our bushels will be, you can do that to my email, ag@flagfamily.com. Thanks to the sponsors who've been a part of this project, two of them would include our folks over at Progressive Ag, risk management specialists, and also crop insurance. Thanks to Ray Grabansky and the folks for being a part of what we do. And then additionally, we want to say thank you to Vision Ford. Had an opportunity to go to Vision Ford in Wahpeton this week to work with them. And I tell you what, for those of us who treat our pickups like our offices, and many farmers do, there's a lot of things in a Ford F-150 that I like, and they showed them to me about being able to turn that whole center console into my workspace, having an extra battery system underneath the box for generator power if you should need it in the field, and so much more. And also leasing options, something we don't often consider, but could be a possibility, and that's all through Vision Ford of Wahpeton. So our guest today joining us is Steve Hanson. Steve farms down by Oaks, North Dakota. And so Steve, give us a little background about your operation, if you would, please.
Yeah, sure. So I raise corn and soybeans down in the Oaks area, south of Oaks there. Born and raised on the farm, right down by Ludden, North Dakota, south of Oaks, right off of the James River. It was a family farm. And then graduated from Oaks High School, went to NDSU, played a little ball there, went into agriculture, and then got done, come home from school. And, irrigation's been a part of my life ever since growing up. And then even more so, once I got back on the farm, we've expanded the irrigation and, really took off. Got married, had 3 daughters, all grown now, and I got a couple grandkids now. So it's been a ride, but it's been a good one.
So you kind of answered one of my questions already, and that was, you mentioned growing up with irrigation. So that's always been a part of your farm operation down there?
Yeah, it has. Anywhere from we pump out of the James River, and I think my dad and mom, I think they were the second permit off the James River down here by Oaks. Back in the early, I think it was like 71 or 72. Year I was born in 71, so it was right after that they got a permit, and Dad started pumping, and yeah, it was pretty crude back then. Not that I remember that, but when I was growing up, we had traveling guns, and and luckily now it's a lot of work, but now it's center pivots, which I'm very thankful for, and now we pump. There's a lot of aquifers, or the main aquifer is the Oaks aquifer. There's a lot of aquifers around the state, but the aquifer we pump out of is called the Oaks aquifer. It's
Okay.
in larger part of the Spiritwood aquifer that runs all the way up to Devil's Lake. But yeah, there's aquifers all around the state, and it'd be nice to just be able to tap into them, and but you got to make sure they're sustainable too, before you can just
Mhm.
get water permits from the Department of Water Resource.
And Steve, what percentage of farms in North Dakota use irrigation? Any idea?
Yeah, sure. So, as far as a percentage, I'm not sure. I can tell you there's just over 300,000 acres of irrigation in North Dakota. Now, it may seem like a lot, but in my opinion, it's not enough. We recently did the Irrigation Association. We partnered up with North Dakota State, and we did a study. And our North Dakota State, they did the study, and to identify areas in the state of North Dakota based on soils, water availability, and in some cases power, on how much more potential we have. And they come back with a study, and this was broken down on a county by county basis. And there's up to 2 million more acres that have a possibility of being irrigated. Now, with that being said, obviously we have a huge natural resource of that big old river off to the west of us, the Missouri River. And that water flows by every day, and that is a big source of it. So a lot of acres that could be developed out there for sure.
And Steve, how does that change during drought conditions? Obviously, water has to be limited. Who's responsible for monitoring that?
Right. Yeah. Good question. So, the Department of Water Resources are they're the ones that they have an appropriation division, and they are the ones that issue water permits. Based on the prior appropriation doctrine. What that means is that if you're first in line, you're first to get a permit. However, some of the aquifers are, nearly appropriated out. They always plan for a drought, and back to the 80s and whatnot. What were our aquifer levels? Well, we maybe didn't have the technology we have now. The Department of Water Resources developed it's called the Presens unit, and what it does is it measures aquifer levels at a real-time basis, and so they can measure it at any time, and and they have these all around the state. They're constantly putting in more to use it as a tool for being able to kick out more water permits. That's the big rap is, they just aren't kicking them out fast enough. Well, they have protocol and they have to do due diligence too, so that we don't deplete our aquifers also. When we get timely rains, it's all good. It replenishes our aquifers. Some aquifers are replenished from the ground up. Ours happens to be one of them down here. Granted, it's good to have rainfall too. Obviously, we need that also. But that is how they've done a whole bunch of studies, AEM data. Using that big sonars off of helicopters to see how deep these aquifers are, and then they'll come out and ground truth it with drill rigs, and it's not an exact science, and we'd love to see more permits, but there is a protocol to it that we need to follow so that it's not just the Wild West.
And I appreciate the fact that, like you said, we don't want it to be the Wild West. When it comes to those measuring devices and what NDSU's been doing for study, do we have an idea how much water is needed to make a change in the aquifer, and particularly the Oaks aquifer where you're at? So, meaning, Steve, if you get a 1 or 2 inch rain, do you think they can see a literal change in the measurements of that aquifer at that time, or would it have to be more?
Yeah. So we have seen now. Now I don't follow the presens units on a day by day basis. I look at it during the
Sure.
winter to see how it's refilling. This is a large aquifer. It has a very deep channel. Right. I'm pretty much right on the Sargent County line. Live in Dickey County, but over there we have what's called the deep channel. That's what us locals call it, because we know
Hmm.
that it's 150, 200 feet deep. It's not very wide, but then as it runs to the west, we're pumping anywhere from 37 feet deep is probably our shallowest well, and when we get in that deep channel, it gets down to yeah, like I said, 200 feet deep, and we're pumping at about 90 feet. So we'll pull that aquifer down in the deep channel 12, maybe 14 feet during the summertime, and then that replenishes back during the winter. Um, so a 1 or 2 inch rain definitely helps, right?
Okay.
And how quickly it gets there, well, I can't answer that, but it does help.
That's fair. Okay. We're going to touch on the bottom of the hour news, Steve. And when we return, we've got more questions for you, especially like with the Irrigation Council. What do y'all do within the state of North Dakota? And you had a field day yesterday. So I'm curious to see what was discussed and shared. So we'll be right back to keep our conversation going with Steve Hanson. We're visiting with Steve Hanson from Oaks, North Dakota. Well, actually, more like Ludden from the sound of it. And Steve farms down in that area, and he's got a lot to do with irrigation and water conservation within the state. Steve, there was a tour yesterday, and you mentioned it when we talked on the phone. It sounds like this was for farmers. It was for the public to attend, but can you give us a little bit of a recap of what was going on for folks to see and talk about?
Yeah, sure. So the North Dakota Water Education, it's part of the North Dakota Water Coalition, and what they do is they put on water tours all over the state. They did one in Devil's Lake. There's one coming up in Bowman, and it was our turn down in Oaks here the other day. And the North Dakota Water Users, Danny Quizzle's the executive director, and she's got a great team there, and they do a great job. And they asked me, oh, I don't know, probably this winter, hey, you want to do a tour down in Oaks? And I said, absolutely, let's do it. And in talking to one of the staffers there, Julie Ellingson, she had said that I think we had 86 people on the tour the other day, and that was the largest one in 23 years. So, what we were trying to showcase, what we're doing down here in Oaks is with the irrigation and technology. I had mentioned that, when it comes to issuing water permits from the DWR, there's a tremendous wait time. People are waiting, including myself, 20 to 30 years before a permit might happen. Now, there's studies that have to be done and whatnot. I'd love to see the process sped up. But in the meantime, what are we doing as farmers? Instead of relying on other people to, try different things or whatever, we're just doing it ourselves and trying to bring forth technology to maybe use it in the modeling to help, maybe issue some more permits. Now, with that being said, it doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen. But some of the technology one of them I'm involved with is a young gentleman out of MIT. He lives in Boston. He graduated MIT, and he's the CEO of Aperture Space. And what he's trying to do, and I believe he'll accomplish, is a novel satellite sensor that will sense the moisture in the root zone. And then when you put that, he can orbit every 3-4 days around your field, and he'll tell you exactly where you need the water. So that's an exciting, technological thing that's coming in the future. He uses a low band width that can penetrate foliage, can penetrate the ground, and tell you them things. So we're kind of a test area for him this year. He's got many others also, but he was on the tour. We had pretty much the whole appropriation staff from the DWR, Department of Water Resource, a lot of people from NDSU, and I think we had about 8 legislators there also from the state. So good stuff. And it was very well received. And there's many other things, but that's just one aspect of it.
When you said that about Aperture Space, and there's a satellite related sensor that can detect moisture in the root zone that can tell you where you need water or where you don't in a field, it's almost like variable rate fertilizer, but you're doing it with water, right? And can you turn your overhead irrigation sections on and off in that type of manner?
Yeah, right. So, so when you couple variable rate irrigation, okay, and variable rate irrigation is not a really new concept, but we're using it, and what you can do is, on my particular system, I can have 24 sections on that center pivot irrigation, and I can put less water on the low ground where I don't need it, and put more on the high ground, and I can do that all in a program. And then I'm ground truthing it with crop in-ground sensors. And the issue with in-ground sensors is it shows you one area, one spot in the field, and they do work if they're set properly, but you have to put them in, you have to remove them, you have a subscription fee. It's all expensive and takes time. Well, with the satellite, it just does it. And what I'm hoping where we get to with this is that satellite will come over, it will tell me when to start and stop my pivot. And oh, by the way, it's also going to tell me, hey, set your VRI like this. I mean, it's really almost using AI technology. However, it needs a lot more data, to develop an algorithm to put into your irrigator. Now that's down the road, but absolutely, we're going to couple this with putting the water where it needs to be, and then we're going to do fertilizer with it too, and putting that fertilizer where it needs to be. So yeah, that's the hope.
And Steve, speaking about technology and using satellite to kind of pinpoint certain parts of the farm, what about drone usage? Are you hopeful, or maybe some farms are using it, that we get to the point where we can spot spray in terms of water using the satellite and drones for maybe certain specific areas of the farm that need it more?
Sure. So we're already using drones.
Okay.
Now, to water with, no, but to spray with, to spot spray, we're already doing it.
Okay.
It's already happening. We're going to actually be using drones to develop this sensor that he is developing for the satellite. And we hope to have that up and going by next summer. So it's moving quickly. How all that happens, I can't answer those questions. That's way above my pay grade. But I'll leave it to the PhD to figure that stuff out. I'm just the farmer on the ground that reports back and gives him the proper data, and then lets him go to work on developing that. So drone usage is happening, and it's supporting some of the stuff we're doing to develop this technology. Another thing that's happening down here, we have a couple farmers using tile water to irrigate with. You do not need to wait on a permit for that, because your tile doesn't go more than 10 feet in the ground. So they're recycling their water is what they're doing. So that's an exciting deal. It's not a foolproof thing. You have to have the certain type of soils that give up water. To run a pivot, it's run at about a half a rate of a normal pivot. And if you don't get rains, if you run a whole summer without rain, you will run out of water. But that is another thing that people are doing. It's not new, but it's new down here. But there's other people around the state that are using that concept also.
It's kind of a way to supplement what you're doing with your other irrigation, perhaps. Or if you have permits for irrigation, would you not be recycling the water from your tiling project?
Well, yeah, and that is part of it, right? But with our conveyance systems that we have, these fields they're all drain tiled also. So when we're not using the water, we are kicking it downstream to the James River. Now, with that being said, we are also doing studies on water quality to make sure that our water is quality water coming out of our tile pumps. We don't, the last thing we want to do is do any polluting or anything like that. And we're working with the Department of Environmental Quality, and we're taking water samples every week to make sure that we are, that we're doing our due diligence as stewards of the land. So it's the whole thing. And we don't see an effect on the aquifer by recycling our water through drain tile through the center pivots. We don't see an effect on it. Now, if everybody done it down here, maybe we would. I can't answer that, but right now we do not see an effect at all.
Steve, with your work on North Dakota's Irrigation Association, tell me a little bit about what that association does and who they represent across the state, if you could.
Sure. Yeah. So North Dakota Irrigation Association is, we are an association that, I'll be flat out honest, not a lot of people know about. We try to get our word out, hey, we want more members. NorthDakotaWater.org or ndwater.org. go to that website and, go to organizations, become a member. It's just like any commodity group or whatever. The more numbers you have, the better off you can advocate for it. We have a water conference in Bismarck the first part of December every year. We bring speakers in. It's just everything water in North Dakota, and Irrigation Association is a big part of that. And we try to get our word out to people as much as possible. But we advocate around the state. These water tours to try to showcase irrigation, but that is probably the extent of it for what we do to try to get the word out on, because there's a lot of people that want irrigation. The Rain
Yeah, they
360 is
do.
another thing that people are looking at. We had one of those demonstrated down here too, that was actually using tile water to run his Rain 360. So, that's another whole nother area of irrigation that can be used in certain situations. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what we're doing. But we need more members is really what we need.
Okay, that Rain 360, I saw somebody send a Snapchat of it yesterday, and it's literally like an on-the-ground mobile irrigator, and it can Y drop, and I can't remember if it can do four. No, it can do more than 4 rows. I saw it at Farm Progress last year. It's got a bigger
Sure.
wingspan, so to speak, than what it thinks. That thing is worth a discussion on itself. And you and I said today was going to be a day that we just sort of got to introduce water and discussions about it in North Dakota. We're probably going to have that conversation over again, especially as we get closer to your December water conference, et cetera. So, Steve,
Sure.
thanks for spending the time today to talk about water in North Dakota.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, Bridgette. And I'm more than happy to talk water or irrigation anytime anybody wants. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. And when we
Yeah,
come
you
back,
bet.
we'll wrap up the weather forecast. We've got some rain in the forecast, and some of it could end up being quite a bit. So we'll kind of time that out for you coming up here right after the break. And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. 1:54 in the afternoon, and we've got partly cloudy skies, temperatures upper 60s to right around 70 across the area. Now, we'll see the clouds continue to thicken up, and we'll see rain come in as we head after dark and into the overnight and into the daytime hours tomorrow. Total rainfall by the time this is done Friday night in and around the valley, up and down the valley, about a quarter to a half inch. So much needed rain across much of the area. And again, there's some spots that don't need a drop of rain if they've had enough. And then we're going to see a break on Saturday, and then more rain comes in Sunday night into Monday and Tuesday. That could be a little heavier with amounts approaching about an inch there. So between tonight and tomorrow through next Tuesday, we're looking at about an inch and a half to some spots, maybe 2 inches, but a general inch and a half over the next 5 to 6 days across the area, Bridgette.
Well, I think we look forward to that. Generally speaking, a lot of folks have said they would take a little bit of rain. We don't need it to be that volume within 15 minutes. It'd be okay if we had a nice little rainfall and that we get that at a timely fashion, because I think there's some soybeans out there that are flowering that wouldn't mind taking on a little bit extra rain. Corn will certainly want it for the final push, that type of thing. On the break earlier, I was listening to what Darren Hefty was saying, and he mentioned spider mites, especially in soybeans. Will we see those? We do have drier weather conditions right now. Not unheard of as we get into July that we start to see some soybean aphids. In dry years, we'll also see some spider mites accompany them. When it comes to spider mites, he said there's I don't know if I want to call it a rumor, a story, or whatever, that Liberty can help suppress mites. I know that they see things from across a broad swath in the U.S. I would not rely on that. If I were to see suppression, would it be because it's protecting more of the new growth on the plant? Potentially. I just don't feel comfortable saying that that's a good idea. When I think about why we want to protect against spider mites, that's where we have a fit for more insecticide use than we should be using a herbicide for it. Even though part of my mind plays back to the days where when we wanted to control white mold, we just burned soybeans down to like little sticks without any leaves on it, because you had a burn that was either a Basagran burn, a Blazer burn, or you went full Cobra burn on them. And those were herbicide names because they were so tough on the crop. But at this stage of the game, I think if we're going to need to control a mite, we need to think about doing that with the right insecticide, and we need to do that at the right timing and when we have economic threshold pressures on it. So don't spray unless you have to, because it's expensive. And this soybean crop looks okay. It's not super. So personally speaking, if it's my field, I'm not going to put any more money into it unless I have to. That's just how I'm looking at it right now. You have had less wildfire smoke as of the last day or so. Tuesday was not the case.
Oh,
Yesterday
man,
and
it's
today
horrible.
a little bit better.
Oh.
Now, there's some work being done by Oregon State talking about that stress on calves can be just as difficult as when they're weaning. And so that stress really brings out the cortisol in them. Also, they can have the coughing, the gagging, the runny noses, just like any of us can as humans. And that means that they're not bulking up. They're not growing. It's hindering that growth. They're putting way more energy into their respiratory than they are in trying to have a good growth strategy at that point. Remember our wildfires in October last fall. We also know that we still have livestock out there, cattle in particular, who have lung damage and potentially an easier chance of catching pneumonia because of that. So cattlemen are going to have to watch for those things too in heavy wildfire smoke areas.
Good point. Good point. Yeah, and it'll be back before the summer is done. That's for sure, unfortunately. But for Bridgette and myself, we want to thank you for joining us today on Weather and Ag in Focus. But don't go anywhere. The Jay Thomas Show, it's coming up next.